Hey everyone, welcome to AI Architect series, a series I've been genuinely excited to build with you. Here is the deal. This series is not about training neural networks, it's not about the math behind machine learning. Instead, it's about something far more practical. How do you design, architect, and build AI systems that actually do useful things in the real world? And we are starting right at the foundation. The most important question before you write a single line of code: what is Agentic AI? And why should you care? By the end of this episode, I promise, you will have a clear, intuitive mental model that will make everything else in this series just click in place. Let's get into it. Let me ask you something. You have probably used ChatGPT or Copilot or some AI assistant. You type a question, it gives you an answer. Simple, right? But what if I told you that's only the beginning of what AI can do? What if instead of just telling you the steps to plan a trip, it actually booked the trip for you? Searched for flights, compared hotel prices, added everything to your calendar, and sent a confirmation to your phone. That's the leap we are talking about. From AI that answers to AI that acts. And that leap has a name: Agentic AI. This is what's changing the game now. And this is what the entire series is about. Let's break it down from scratch. Before we define Agentic AI, let's quickly set the scene with what most of us already know: traditional AI. Traditional AI, in the way most people experience it today, is essentially a really powerful input-output machine. You gives it a prompt, it gives you a response. That's it. And honestly, that's already incredibly useful. But it has a ceiling. It has no real memory. It cannot take actions in the real world on its own. And once it's done answering, you are back doing the actual work yourself. Now look at the right side. Agentic AI. The same thing, but the AI doesn't stop at the answer. It takes the goal, breaks it down into steps, uses tools to get things done, and adapts as it goes. The AI does the follow-up work. That shift from answering to acting is the entire idea behind Agentic AI. And it's a big deal. Alright, let's lock in the definition. Read it with me. Agentic AI. An AI system that can perceive its environment, set or receive goals, form multi-step plans, use external tools, remember past actions, and operate autonomously to complete tasks, with minimal human involvement at each step. That's a lot of words. Let me boil it down to 4 verbs, and I want you to remember these because they will come up again and again throughout this series. Number 1, perceive. The agent reads its environment, like inputs, context, data, etc. Number 2, plan. It figures out the steps needed to achieve a goal. 3, act. It actually takes actions. For example, calls an API, searches the web, write a file, etc. Number 4, adapt. It looks at the results and adjusts its plan. That loop, perceive, plan, act, adapt, is the heartbeat of every agentic system you will ever design. Keep it in your head. Let me make this completely concrete with an analogy I love. Imagine you are thirsty. You walk up to a vending machine, you press B3 for a Coke, you get a Coke, that's it. The machine did exactly what you told it, nothing more, nothing less. It has no memory of what you bought last time. It doesn't suggest, hey, you always get a Coke, should I just hold one for you? It cannot, because it do not have that memory which keeps what you bought last time. It just does one thing in response to one input. That's traditional AI. It's really useful, but limited to exactly what you ask. It only gives response of what you ask for. Now imagine, instead you hire a really capable new employee. You walk in on Monday morning and say, I need a production launch ready by Friday. You don't give step-by-step instructions. They figure it out. They email the design team. They update the website. They schedule the announcement. And they check back when something is unclear. That is Agentic AI. You give it a goal, it figures out the rest. And this analogy, the employee analogy, is one I want you to carry throughout this entire series. Now that we understand what Agentic AI is at a high level, let's talk about what it takes to build one. There are 5 core capabilities that every agentic system needs. I call this the 5 pillars, and they are going to be the recurring theme throughout this series. Pillar 1, goals. The agent needs to know what it is trying to achieve. Pillar 2, planning. It needs to figure out the steps to reach that goal. Pillar 3, memory. It needs to remember what happened both in this session and across sessions. Pillar 4, tools. It needs the ability to actually do things like search the web, call APIs, write files, etc. Pillar 5, autonomy. It needs to know how much independence it has, when to act, when to check in. We are going to explore each of these in the next few slides, and trust me, once you see how they fit together, everything else we do in this series will make complete sense. Let us dig into the first two pillars, goals and planning. Think of goals as the what. It is what you hand to the agent, basically the things you want accomplished. Sometimes you define it explicitly. For example, book me the cheapest flight to Berlin. Sometimes the system defines it. For example, every hour, check if the server is healthy. And importantly, big goals almost always get broken into smaller sub-goals automatically. Now, planning is the how. Once the agent has a goal, it needs to figure out the steps. And this is where things get interesting. Because a good planner doesn't just make a list and blindly follow it. It replans when something breaks. It reflects on its own work and checks, like, does this actually make sense? Together, goals and planning are what give an agent its sense of direction. Without them, you just have a very expensive autocomplete. Pillar 3, memory. And this one trips people up a lot. When most people use a chatbot, they notice something annoying. Every new conversation starts fresh. The AI has no idea what you talked about yesterday. That's because by default, most AI systems only have what we call a context memory, which means they only remember what is in the current conversation window. But Agentic AI goes further. We have 4 types of memory that agents can use. First one is in context. In context is a working memory, which is fast but unlimited like your computer's ROM. The next one is external memory, like a database. The agent can look up things, store results, retrieve past work from external memory. The other one is episodic memory. Episodic memory lets the agent say, I remember what we talked about this last week. And the last one is semantic memory. Semantic memory is the agent's understanding of concepts, which is stored as vector embeddings. We'll spend a whole episode on memory later in this series, but for now, just know, memory is what gives an agent continuity. Without it, every action is isolated. But with memory, the agent gets smarter over time. Pillars 4 and 5, tools and autonomy. Tools are the hands of the agent. This is how an agent actually does things in the real world. Without tools, an agent can only think, it cannot act. But with tools, it can, for example, search the web, call APIs, run code, read and write files, send emails, query databases, etc. We'll have an entire episode on tool design later, including something called MCP, the Model Context Protocol, which is becoming the standard way to connect agents to tools. Now let's talk about autonomy, and this one is super important. Autonomy is not just on or off. Think of it like a slider. On one side, the human is doing everything, and the agent is just giving suggestions. In the middle, agent can actually take actions, but it pauses and check with the human before anything important. And on the far end, the agent just goes for it, fully independent, no approvals needed. Now, here is the big question you need to ask every time you design an agent. Where do you want to set that slider? Because if you push it too far, you start losing control. But if you keep it too low, you did not really build an agent. You just built a slightly smarter chatbot. So this balance, this is everything. Getting this right is one of the most important decisions you'll make as an AI architect. Now let us zoom out and see how all 5 pillars connect into one system. At the center of any agentic system is the LLM, which is the brain. It reasons, plans, and decides what to do next. Surrounding it, goals come in from the top. These are the instructions, the objectives, what the user or system wants achieved. On the left, memory. Memory feeds the LLM with context, like what happened before, what facts are relevant, what state the task is in. On the right, tools. Tools allow the LLM to take actions in the real world, like search, compute, communicate, etc. Below, the autonomy level. Autonomy level governs when and how often the agent involves a human in the loop. This diagram is simple by design. In later episodes, we'll add more layers like orchestrators, multiple agents, message queues, etc. But this core pattern stays the same. Every agentic system you will ever build maps back to this. Keep it in your head. Let me bring all of this into life with a concrete example, the travel planner agent. You give the agent one goal. Book me a 3-night trip to Amsterdam next weekend. Budget 800 euros. Direct flights only. Watch what happens. Step 1. Perceive. The agent reads that goal and extract the key details like destination, dates, budget, and your preference for direct flights. Step 2. Plan. It breaks this into subtasks like find flights, find hotels, check the total, and confirm the booking. Step 3. Act. It calls a flight search API and find 3 options within your budget. Step 4. Act again. It calls a hotel API and finds options near the city center. Step 5. Adapt. It adds up the cost and realizes the total is slightly over 800 euros. So it replans. Tries a different hotel. Get the total under the budget you have. Step 6. The output. It books everything, add the trip to your calendar and send you a confirmation email. This entire sequence, perceive, plan, act, adapt and output, without you doing a single thing in between. That is Agentic AI in action. Why should you care about Agentic AI now? Because 3 things have converged at exactly the right moment. First, the models are finally good enough. For the first time, LLMs can reliably plan, reason through multi-step problems, and self-correct when they go wrong. That reliability threshold matters enormously when you are building autonomous systems. Second, the frameworks are mature. A year ago, building an agentic system meant writing a lot of glue code yourself. But today we have LangGraph, Microsoft Agent Framework, Autogen, etc. The real production tools with real community support. Third, enterprises are actively deploying. This is not a research paper territory anymore. Companies are shipping SRE agents, legal research agents, customer support agents, etc. right now at this moment. And fourth, I'll be honest with you here. This is a skill set that the industry is paying a premium for. Engineers who understand how to design agentic systems are in a very high demand. That's why you are here. That's why I built this series. Before we wrap up, let me address the 4 most common misconceptions I see when people first encounter Agentic AI. Myth 1. It is just a smarter chatbot. No. A chatbot answers, an agent acts, and those actions have real-world consequences. Agents are fully autonomous. No, that's not correct. In production, most agents are supervised. The agent does the work. A human reviews. That's a right default. You need a custom trained model. But you don't. You take an existing LLM like Cloud, GPT-4, Gemini, etc. and build the agentic architecture around it. The agent is the system design, not the model weights. Myth 4. It is not production ready. Wrong. Real companies are shipping this right now. The tooling is mature. The models are reliable enough. We are past the research phase. Getting this straight into your head early will save you a lot of confusion later. Hold on to this. Let me quickly show you where the Agentic AI fits in the broader landscape of AI development, what I call the modern AI stack. At the base, you have foundation models. These are the raw LLMs like GPT-4, Cloud, Gemini, etc. They are the intelligence, but by themselves, they are just very capable text generators. One level up, prompting and chains, like basic LLM pipelines. You have probably done some of this already. Then RAG and knowledge. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. That connecting the LLM to your data, your own data. We'll talk about RAG in the later episodes. So Here is where things get interesting. Single agent sits above that. Those are autonomous systems with goals, memory, and tools. Multi-agent systems go further, like multiple agents collaborating, orchestrating, specializing, etc. And at the top, full agentic applications. Those are the real products, real workflows. Things like the travel planning assistant I have explained in the example before. This entire series lives in those top 3 layers. We are not re-explaining what an LLM is, but we are building on top of it. And that distinction is really important. Let's look in what we have covered in this episode, because this is your foundation for everything else in this series. Number 1, traditional AI answers, but agentic AI acts. That's a core shift. Number 2, agents run on a loop. Those are perceive, plan, act, and adapt. That's a heartbeat of every agentic system. Number 3, there are 5 pillars: goals, planning, memory, tools, and autonomy. Every agent you build touches all 5. And number 4, autonomy is a slider, not a switch. Choose the right level. Number 5, the travel planner showed all of this in action, a real example, real steps, and real tools. Number 6, this is not a future tech, it's happening now. And you are building the skills to be part of it. Take a breath, that was a lot, but every concept we just covered will come back in later episodes. And each time, it will click a little deeper. That is a wrap of episode 1 of AI Architect. You now have the mental model. You know what agentic AI is, how it is different from traditional AI, what its 5 pillars are, and why it matters right now. That is genuinely a solid foundation. In episode 2, we are going inside the machine. We are going to take a real agent and dissect every single component. The LLM brain, the tool layer, the memory system, the orchestrator, and we will map each piece to actual code in Microsoft's agent framework. That's where the architecture gets concrete. If you found this useful, like and subscribe goes a long way in helping the series reach more engineers who needs it. And if you have questions, drop them in comments. I read everything. See you in episode 2, and let's keep building.